Good afternoon and welcome to Hard Talk. This is your host, Marsha Walker, and we are happy to be with you on your drive home today. I actually am hearing that there is lots and lots of traffic in El Dorado because one of my guests are not able to make it. Well, they could do like Risa here, and they could have maybe we could just have them on video. But people are stuck in traffic. Risa, how is the traffic where you are?
Oh, there is some traffic. Actually, I'm on my way down from Port of Spain.
Where are you headed towards which
Gasperlo,
direction?
South
South.
Trinidad.
Well, you
Yes,
guys always have traffic. Oh my gosh.
yes.
Yeah. But I'm hearing that it's abnormal traffic, someone said. So, be safe on the roads. Okay, so we're gonna get right into it. So we are if you haven't read, because she put the whole thing in, women are just so meticulous. I normally have a lot of guys on this show. I don't have as many girls as I do have guys. And they put like it's like typing is too long, it's too hard, so you get like all sorts of things. But joining us, we do have the second vice president of the OWTU, the oil field workers trade union, right? You work at TN as well, specifically. Yes.
Yes, yes, Masha. I work at TN Tech and I am the executive officer with the responsibility for TN Tech as well.
Okay, you have to tell us what that means.
All right. That means that the day-to-day operations of TN Tech relative to union business, I have responsibility for that. So when it comes to negotiations, grievances, industrial relations, all of those things, that falls under my purview.
Okay, awesome. All right, so when I spoke to Ozzy yesterday, I said I hope she's prepared to be. I learned a term last week, an unrepentant capitalist. So and I worked in the private sector all my life, So I mean, we this is going to be an education for me, hopefully, and for
Mhm.
those listening as well, because I may ask some hard questions. Now, we have two things to discuss. What you will get my support, hands down. I've pledged my support. God willing, I will be there on Saturday. So, for those of y'all who are not aware, put it in your calendar. This Saturday coming, like today's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 9 a.m. So we want to be settled, ready, 9 a.m. outside of Whitehall, and we are protesting. Now, someone asked me, is this a UNC? Well, all in all, I'm not showing up to no UNC protest. Sorry, not happening. You know, um, is it trade unions? Because then some people say, well, the trade unions now in bed with UNC, so them ain't showing up. I think that we need to unite on the issues that we can unite on. And I think this
Yeah.
is one of protesting against the government for so many different reasons. And we will go through that today. It's something that we could unite on. I'm sure you guys have something that you can stand and raise your voice come Saturday. So put it in your calendar. Wear red, white, and black. Wear yellow. Wear purple. Wear green. I don't know. Are you guys calling on persons to wear any particular color, or we just want the numbers? Risa,
Come out, Masha. That is
just
what is
come.
important. That is correct. At this point in time, it's not about really who you represent or what group you belong to. It's about being a citizen of this country.
Yes, agreed. All right. So, um, I could go on about protesting a lot, right? Because protesting, I guess I may be well known for protesting, by the way. I don't know if you know me, but I've laid down in front of
Mhm.
Parliament, like lie flat on the ground in front of Parliament. I've taken the government to court, in fact, for my
Mhm.
right to protest, after being threatened to be arrested, saying that what I'm doing is illegal. And I challenged them. I said, what I'm doing is not illegal. I have a constitutional right to protest. And yeah, and so I took them to court. The judge basically said the TTPS you know. In fact, it's so crazy, right? The judge said, but this law is so clear that I do not need to give my opinion because I went for judicial review. So the law is clear. We have a right to protest, right? Let's just put that out there. What is Tech in particular? I mean, why are you guys? Why did this protest come up? What are you guys hoping to achieve on Saturday? Wait, before we get there, why
Yeah.
Saturday? The Whitehall, is it open on Saturday? Like, is he there? Who's there? What is he? Why did y'all choose the Whitehall? Why did y'all choose Saturday? You know, let's just give me everything that you know about this protest.
All right. So Marsha, at this point in time, it's not about who is really going to be at Whitehall, meaning in the building on Saturday morning. It is about the significance of Whitehall itself. At the end of the day, I mean, we would have had protests across all sectors, all areas of Trinidad, and even in some instances at Tobago. But at this point in time, we would have seen it fit, and this is a trade union movement. As you know, this is an activity that is being led by the Joint Trade Union Movement, and Tech as a group of workers who would have been agitated for quite some time now based on what has been happening within TNTech, and we'll get to that shortly. We would have realized that this is an opportunity for us to come out and to further highlight what we have been highlighting all the time, which are the failures by not only the management but also the government as it concerns the TNTech workers. So we would have welcomed the opportunity, the call that was made, and we are definitely, as a TNTech unit, we are going to answer that call.
So we can expect a lot of Tech workers out on
Most
Saturday.
certainly,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
I think
Mhm.
public has been well aware that the TNTech workers for a couple of weeks now we have been having some activities in the public domain, and this is an opportunity that we are going to seize as well.
All right. So this is where we're gonna get tricky, right? Because I do want to give, for example, I had the ports. I had someone represent the ports, yeah, last week, right? Um, because I think that based on where you stand, the information gets a little bit skewed. So, for example, I tell people all the time, um, in the West, somehow we were happy that Petrotron was shut down. I mean, whether it's a proper brainwashing by PNM or whatever the case may be, maybe it's the fact that we live in the West, so we didn't really feel the impact, the immediate impact, with the smaller businesses and all the little side businesses and whatnot. We didn't feel that impact. But what you hear is, it's like it drains the economy, it drains the country because you have a maid making so much money and you have this one making so much money, and it's like everybody just get a government work and they go inside a Petrotrin and they make a lot of money and they can't live in the private sector. Do you hear that at all?
Yes, those are sentiments that are shared by persons, in the public, particularly as you would have rightly identified, persons who may not have been as intimate as those citizens belonging to the southern part of the country, who would hold a different view, more than likely, relative to Petrotrin and the importance of Petrotrin as an industry when it was in existence and what it would have been doing, relative to contributing to ensure that our economy was in a better place.
Of course, we feel
Um,
it now, the foreign
that's
exchange and everything. So it trickles down. So now we're beginning to understand. But again, there seems to be a feeling, well, but government workers, the public service, Tech, Tech, how much money them does make? And there's take lunch off, and there's this and there's that. And, so there's a feeling that those who are represented by the trade unions in these in institutions such as Tech cannot make it in the private sector. Like they can't go and work for a distribution company where you're eating and working and whatever, and those are some of the impressions that we get. You'll earn a lot more than everybody else, and the work ethic isn't there. Can you address that? Because what I want to make sure that there is a space where all of these stereotypes can be properly addressed. If we don't understand each other in the country, so just giving you that history of who I am, and what the show is about, and what my voice has always been about, is to bridge the gap. The gap between the north and the south. The gap for a small country, I actually think that we have a lot of gaps. So we have, you know persons, we just don't understand. We don't seem to understand each other, even though we're a small country. And everybody has a stereotype of somebody else, and they know somebody else, and they judge somebody else. And I think that we need a lot more understanding if we are really to unite as a country. um and
Mm-hmm.
politicians they've milked division. They've milked it, they've used it to their advantage. And so I think at the core of it, if we can unite, if we can understand each other, if we can understand that we really are fighting one common cause, then maybe we could see a group of citizens that hold the government accountable a lot more than just saying, yeah, but all they deserve, all they get, and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. So, Masha, if so, you would have described what would be on the mind of a number of persons in this country relative to public service worker or TN tech worker. You know, um, 8 hours is a work day. They're working 4 hours. You hear all those kind of comments, right? But what I can tell you is, if the TN tech worker was anything like what you would have described, then this country would have been in a really bad place. And let me tell you why I'm saying that. As it stands right now, the burden of ensuring that the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago can enjoy a reliable supply rests also on the back of the TN Tech workers. And I'm saying that because TN Tech workers, and the country doesn't know this, but the majority of the TN Tech workers, particularly those in the field, are required to make magic from day to day. We have to ensure that what we have to get done is done with the limited or non-existing materials and tools and PPE that is actually required to do the job. So the TN Tech worker could easily go to a job site and say, oh, well, we don't have this, we don't have that, and we don't have a boots. So we can't go out and work. But that is not the general attitude of the TN Tech worker. The TN Tech worker continues on a day-to-day basis to go out and to outperform themselves, knowing and understanding the responsibility that they hold as a worker in an essential service. And that misconception that is carried by the public, sometimes, that image is painted by those who want workers like TNTech workers to be seen in that light, when in reality, that is not the case. Oftentimes, members of the public will pass around and say, well, we see a truck park up, without understanding the reason why that truck is there. Sometimes it's because the management would have failed to put proper planning in place to ensure that when a crew goes on a job site, they can get an outage at the time they're supposed to get the outage. If the outage can't come, then they have to sit on wait, because this is electricity you're dealing with, huh? And one error could result in a life being lost. And that is what the general public does not understand. And that is what I would like to take this opportunity to reassure the public, that when you see the TN Tech workers out there, is because most times they are going above and beyond to do what is required of them to ensure that this country can enjoy a reliable supply.
Okay, so and I appreciate that, because I do think that, and I could see that there is a space where it is easier to blame those who may not have the voice that the management or the government themselves have. So it's always easy to say, well, them lazy, because if you put it off to them lazy, and you know fair victimization. So
And
I'm always, it is courageous for anybody to speak out, because you could come in the morning for having this interview, and they will find some reason that you ain't getting a job, that you don't have a job tomorrow. So I commend anyone who's willing to speak out against leadership that isn't doing their job, the job that they've been called to do. The Bible talks about, teachers will be judged harder. So I think
Yeah.
there is a space where leaders must understand that if you want to be a leader, then the buck stops with you. So it's always very upsetting when I see, for example, the prime minister or the government or whoever, whichever leader, um try to put the blame off. And I say, but the buck stops with you. It's always with you. It's always with you.
I agree. Yes.
Find a way. Do something. Be more charismatic. Get people on board. The buck stops with you. So I'm not very merciful when it comes to leadership. Because in many cases, you're well paid, and it's not, a lot of times it's not something that someone had to put a gun to your head to have. You
Yeah.
wanted it, so you best deliver. uh, so
That's
let's
correct.
talk so let's talk specifically. Okay, hold on, give me 2 seconds. Sometimes I need to read. Okay, so
So,
my personal opinion, I literally think that the government needs to address the demands of these agencies, since these are daily utilities. Okay, so there might be a typo. So since these daily utilities are mandatory, and forget seeking pay rise for themselves. So, right. Well, I mean, so that is something that, in terms of the timeliness of it, I'm sure that would have pushed you guys over the top. That you are there working, and now all of a sudden you hear that management of the country are all getting a pay rise, 40 something percent, 70 something percent in some cases, and you guys are being asked to accept 2%, 4%, point something percent. Um, so I'm seeing here too, why is it that every simple thing that the government can literally address always have to lead to a protest? We literally have a serious management problem in this country. So I just wanted to read some of the comments that are coming
sure.
from social media, try to engage our audience as much as we can. So tell me some of the issues specifically. What Okay, so a pay increase is one issue. If you can break that down, so for example, the port would have explained to us the collective agreement that happened in 2015, and that in fact they wanted things that would have put more efficient systems in place. So they spoke about 60% of the wage bill is actually overtime. So if they actually increase the wage but implement the entire agreement, then the wage bill will actually go down. So some of those things, again, we were able to flesh out. So the country was able to hear um
Mhm.
another side of things, that is not just about, y'all saying, well, if we give you all the wage increase that we want, that we wouldn't be able to afford it, so the wage bill will actually go down. So those are some of the things that I would like that you could flesh out, that you could clear up. Is it that there was a collective agreement that has been broken? What are you guys protesting,
All right. So first of all, just so that we can get the proper context, right? The TNTech workers belonging to the OWTU's bargaining unit, we are stuck on 2014 salaries in 2024. Now, the period 2015 to 2017, that collective bargaining period, unfortunately, parties could not come to an agreement on a number of matters, and that period went before the industrial court. In the judgment coming out of the industrial court indicated in the judgment that we acknowledge the fact that the TNTech workers are deserving of an increase. However, it cannot be funded at this point in time. So for the period 2015 to 2017, the TNTech workers got 000. Here we are now. Now, that, mind you, that judgment has been appealed by the OWTU, and that is scheduled for a hearing early next year at the Court of Appeal. For the period 18 to 20, parties started negotiations in September of last year. We are now 1 year and 2 months after the start of the negotiations. And to date, at least since November of last year, the companies, mantra is we have not received a mandate relative to cost items. Now, the OWTU, being a responsible union, would have recognized the fact that we just came out of COVID-19. The country as a whole was affected, including TNTech. And we were very reasonable in our proposal to the company. We set at 12% on cost items across the board. 12%, and we're willing to even sit and have negotiations with you. To date, the company has not even placed an offer of zero on the table. There is no offer on the table. When we met with the company, one of the things that we sought to address as the union is the hemorrhaging that takes place as a result of contract labor. And this contract labor comes about as a result of the company's failure to properly staff the organization, particularly in the field. Now, how could you have a utility like TNTech that is considered as an essential service, and that only seems to be convenient, quite frankly, but you have the company understaffed in the area where you require manpower on an everyday basis to be able to maintain a reliable supply to this country? Then what you are doing is, by doing that, you are creating avenues to get contractors on the system. Now, the union is not opposed to those persons that are employed by contractors. Let me make that very clear, because at one point in time, the union would have even said there is a need for additional manpower. If we have persons that work with contractors, let us bring them in, conduct formal training, and bring them into the organization so that they can operate at the levels of efficiency that is required of a TNTech worker. But you choose not to do that. You choose to starve the company of the required manpower, and yet still we have a hemorrhaging taking place where contractors are being used to do things that you have men sitting down in a yard for. So, for instance, you have persons labeled as line clearers, but they're not performing line clearing duties. You have them doing other duties while you bring contractors in and have them do line clearing, right? And when we made a proposal across the negotiation table that would have ensured transparency and accountability, the company was in disagreement. We spoke about auditing the books of the contractors. The company was in disagreement to that. How can you be opposed to something that would plug the hemorrhaging and to something that would ensure that the citizens of this country get what they deserve, which is a reliable supply? Because oftentimes, Marsha, when you have contractors doing jobs, oftentimes you find that you have to send back the same TNTech worker to correct a lot of shoddy work that is taking place by contractors. And this is because the proper checks are not being done to ensure that contractors are performing as they should be performing. Yet still we have them on the system.
Wow. Okay, so you are saying that if the contractor situation, what basically needs to happen, it needs to be regularized. Maybe bring them under the structure, the proper TNTech structure, and you'd actually find that the expense, if I were to call, if just for the purpose of this, we consider the contractor's payments as wages, as part of your wage bill, the wage bill will go down if you were to regularize that issue with the contractors. Is that what you're saying?
Most certainly. That is correct. That is very correct. And in addition to that, Masha, what you would find is you would see an improvement, a further improvement. Now, TNTech is one of the better performing utilities in Trinidad and Tobago. Better to the extent where even the line minister would have proudly stood on a platform and made that statement publicly, and would have even paraded the TNTech workers in Grenada just recently, right? So there are no questions about the performance of the TNTech workers. But if we have these persons come in and get the proper training, then they can go out and perform and do what they have to do in an exceptional manner. And you would also see an improvement in the already, quality service that is being received by the members of the public, or has been paid for by the members of the public.
Do you have a figure by chance in terms, because you said, there is a hemorrhaging of funds, right? Because
Yeah.
of this issue with contract workers. Do you guys have an estimate of how much money is being lost because of this mismanagement of human resource?
So I'm glad that you asked that question. Let me tell you why. When we sat across the table with the company, and not only at the negotiations table, but first of all, our collective agreement, it outlines how contractors are supposed to be utilized. That is not being adhered to, and as a result of that, we have a number of grievances at the court and various stages of the grievance procedure, right? But when we sat and we spoke about contractors, and as the union, we would have a fair enough idea as to what is taking place relative to contract work, because our men are in the field every day. Our members are the ones that are responsible for ensuring that the documentation and whatever have you is in place, right? Now, when we sat across the table and we asked the company, let us discuss how much money was spent on the parallel workforce for a particular period. This is the recognized majority union, huh? And the company is refusing to give that information to the union. That in itself speaks volumes. What we would have had to do is we would have resorted to utilizing the freedom of information,
That was the next question I was going to ask.
because this does not sit well with the workers in the organization.
So you
Job
guys have
security.
filed a freedom of information application.
Well, as you are aware, freedom of information cannot be utilized by an organization. So there are workers within Tech
Who would
who
file
would
it?
have said, here's what, I need to know what is going on because my job security here now is on the line. So workers themselves would have taken it upon themselves, of course, to utilize the freedom of information to get details that is supposed to be given to the recognized majority union. And when you have that level of hesitation from the management, it speaks volumes as to what is taking place. Why can't you be transparent?
Yeah. No, I ask that same question all the time because in fact, I was actually just about 2 weeks ago. I had to take the government to court because I'd filed a freedom of information application to get the legal fees. We always have to be begging for how much money always spend on legal fees, and that was about 2 years ago. And of course, the I think when citizens just send it in, they think, well, they're not gonna follow through. Like if you don't answer me in 30 days, who's gonna spend the money on a lawyer and see it through? So yeah, Anon Ramlugan is my lawyer and he sees things through. So we finally got the judgment, and it was a ridiculous figure, of course, right? So 2 years later, but it's unfortunate. And I said that. I said, why do we have to go down this road every time we need to get information from you? Why? Why do I have to go to the Privy Council and have somebody say something? Or like, oh gosh, let's just give me the information, through law. And but as I said, it's I guess they're hoping that the employee at TNTech may not have the means or whatever to go all the way. So did you get the answer? Did I mean whoever employee? So it has been filed, yes?
Yeah, that is
We're at
still in
that stage.
process. And a matter of fact, a lot of other workers are now using the freedom of information to get details that the commission or information that the commission is supposed to be openly given to them. And so, Marsha, you're correct. It's a sad thing when you have to use these avenues to get information that is supposed to be readily available. It's sad. Another,
And
another,
and then
another.
and then in the end, the thing about that as well is and the Minister of Finance says it when we talk about the legal fees. You know what they say is because UNC taking you to court and people every day they had to be answering a freedom of information. Well, you don't have to, and you could save all that legal money if you were to just give us the information. I mean, it's if that in itself might be a scandal to find out how much money they spend. And I actually had one in a lawyer who represented the port workers with the injunction and stuff last week, and we said it could only be that this is a way of again paying their lawyer friends or something, because I mean it's
Marsha,
going to go to court, we're going to get the
I
information.
am glad you touched on that, because let me tell you why. TNTech has a fully staffed legal department, right? Legal department. And would you believe that for simple matters such as promotions and acting, you don't have in-house counsel coming to the court, you know? Who you see coming to the court is senior counsel, the Skeet Cutland and the
Oh
Robin Angus
wow.
and these persons for simple matters. So then, really and truly, what is the purpose of your legal department? Why do you have these persons there if you continuously utilize external counsel to treat with, and it's only very simple matters. Workers look at this and workers say, so you have money to spend on senior counsel, but you can't give me my increase in salary. And it's a sad thing.
Well, someone is commenting. Interesting. I mean, if you, I mean, I am. I need to write down 4:35 p.m. because this to me is. I mean, these kinds of things should be headline news. I think these things, the opposition should press them in Parliament. And we. I really hope that you guys get an opportunity to for these kinds of things to go viral. For the country to. I mean, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know anymore. I don't know what it will take for us for the country to be angry enough, interested enough to really stand up because it is what you just said there is very, very, it's frustrating.
Yes,
I don't have any more words, Risa, because we keep hearing tighten our belt. We keep hearing we don't have money. We keep hearing this. But then you're losing money. You just said it. Why would you pay? And senior counsel is real money. Why fund? You just said it. There's a full legal team in house.
yes,
Even if because there may be some people may say for whatever reason, I don't know, right? But I know, okay, we want a civilian lawyer to fight. Well, you say it's an easy case, so it's not even a difficult case, but then certainly you do not need a senior counsel because senior counsel demands a whole different kind of
different
wow.
level,
Yeah.
exactly.
Wow, this is crazy. Okay,
No, it
I
is.
mean, I'm not running you. You can be here with me. My second guest is somebody who will just, and he's a lawyer, and and he's a good friend, so we can tell him come later, whatever. It don't matter as well, right? So I'm not running you. So you don't have to end. You end when you want to end. Because I knew this was going to be an experience where I was educated, and hopefully there are people who are listening who will also be enlightened and really understand. Because as I said, um, I find that people look for an excuse to be divided. So them TNTech workers or them union or them opposition or them or them or them. I think the entire country, for me, I think there were so many enough is enough moments. I have to be honest. There were so many enough is enough
Yes,
moments.
yes.
But the prime minister and I mean, so even if he retires, even if he says he's not going back in 2025, he is going to have a back pay like no other. Every single one of them MPs working or not, never show up or not, performing or not, they're going to have a back pay like no other. And you're the one who said tighten your belt. You're the one who said that things are going to remain hard until 2027, hopefully when Dragon comes on board. And right after saying that, we have to hear that you are going to get an increase and a
That
back.
is correct. And then in saying that I'm going to accept, the cabinet is going to accept, you're also saying that we have worked hard.
Yeah,
And if you have that belief, well, fine, no problem. But the hard work of the TNTech workers is what has this country up and running on a daily basis. So
yeah,
when are we going to be compensated for the work that we would have already done?
yeah. And I mean, I'm assuming that you guys can legally do some version of work to rule where you stick to what you're allowed to, and the country would probably be in darkness if you guys literally just worked strictly to what you're paid to do.
So I'm glad that you raised that. And I just want to make it absolutely clear. All of the actions taken by the TNTech workers thus far would have been actions that were outside of scheduled working hours. So when you see the TNTech workers in East Gates by the line minister at 6, 7 o'clock in the night, rest assured that there was not one worker who was rostered to work that would have been there. When you see TNTech workers along Ryson Road in Port of Spain, 7, 8 o'clock in the night, those are not TNTech workers that are rostered to work. Those are TNTech workers that are on their own personal time. And Marsha, because the workers of TNTech decided enough is enough moments, right? And really, enough is enough. They decided, here's what the public is about time the public knows what is taking place in TNTech, right? And what the company did is they ran quickly to the court to file for injunctive relief. Now, that matter is scheduled to be heard in December. So I'm not going to speak too much on that, but only to say they filed for injunctive relief, claiming that the workers have been engaged in industrial action. They have been withholding their labor, right? But yet, still, as recent as this week, you had the executive management of TNTech sending out a general memo to the workforce, commending the workers for their continued hard work and dedication, despite the fact that negotiations have not been settled. That in itself tells you that the TNTech workers have not been engaging in industrial action. And that attempt to sully the name or the image of the TNTech workers is not being taken lightly by the TNTech workers. You can't do that. What you are trying to do is to muzzle the workers so that the public does not know what is taking place in TNTech. And that is a sad place to be in. Very sad.
I got goosebumps as you just said that because I'm thinking to myself, this woman is very courageous in the face of a large organization like TNTech, which would have the strength of the government behind them to be willing to speak out and to speak the truth. I'm really, really grateful for any citizen like yourself who is willing to correct the record regardless. So, are you afraid of any victimization that might happen?
I have no fear. They may have the strength and the backing of the government, but I trust in Almighty God. I
Mm-hmm.
trust in Almighty God. And at the end of the day, Masha, I am just like you. I have always been one who would stand up for what is right. Despite, yes, you know that there may be certain repercussions or ramifications as a result of the decisions that you are making. But one has to know within themselves that what they are doing is right, and it is for the betterment of not only myself, for
Yeah.
my family, my children, and for the citizens of this country. That is
And the
why I
next
do what I do.
generation. I mean, if
That is
I've
correct.
I've said to a lot of people, I said, there are I use carnival a lot as an example where we don't even most people who put on their two-piece and they whining all over the place on Carnival Monday and Tuesday, they don't understand the Canbule riots. They don't understand bloodshed. People
Yeah,
lost their lives for something as simple as Carnival. There are so many freedoms that we have that we take for
agree.
granted. You know,
Yes.
I mean, um, it was I can't remember his name right now. But in the Black Power movement and in the water riots and so many different labor movements and so many different protests, people were arrested, people died.
That's correct.
And I mean, and if we even go further, I say to some people, I say, well, thank God you wasn't living when slavery was when we depended on you to push slavery being abolished because we still be in shackles, you know.
Master, here's what, we could all just sit down, rock back, relax, and take whatever comes our way. You know who's going to suffer? Our
Our
children
children.
and our grandchildren that we will leave on this earth. Because
Yeah.
it is not going to be an easy task for them to recover from that situation that we would have placed them in.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing. I mean, so okay, so on, let's say on Indian Arrival Day, we will all post something about who took the journey across the ocean and their sacrifice, and we always talk about how we have benefited from the sacrifice of our forefathers, and yet still not quite understanding that we now have a duty to do that same sacrifice for the next generation.
Correct.
We
Yes.
have a duty to take the baton and carry it on to the, so that the next generation can live even better than, we should not be leaving a worse situation, for us.
And it's
Kyle,
a
I see that you're
continued
logged on.
struggle. Yes,
Am
it's
I
a
am I going
continuous
to,
struggle.
Kyle, am I having a radio interview with you as well, or you're just not ready yet? Because I don't want to ignore you, even though I told Risa we can't ignore you.
No,
I don't
no,
know.
carry on, that's fine.
I don't know where. Well, when Kyle says hello, because Kyle is still on mute, we will end the conversation.
Sure.
So is there? I don't have any other questions. I mean, I made a note about reliable supply of electricity because, of course, we don't. I don't think that we have a reliable supply of electricity, but I'm guessing that that really has nothing to do with your work ethic. Um,
No, no, we
so
don't.
I mean, whether it's the last 5 minutes, I don't know how long we have because I don't know where Kyle has disappeared to. Um, but we've gone through some things. Is there anything that I would not have asked that you want to bring up? Do you want to list out, every single issue, in point form that you guys want to see addressed? The floor is yours. Speak to Trinidad and Tobago and let them know what is going on. What is it that the company is trying to stop you from saying? Speak.
All right. So the first thing I would like to say, Marsha, is that the struggle of the TNTech worker is not only for the TNTech worker, it is also for the citizens of this country. Because if we can get the materials that we need when it is needed, if we can get proper tools, proper vehicles to go out and work, then we can come to you in a much faster time and ensure that when we come, we don't have to come back a second time or a third time because we have to now wait for them to find materials from God knows where, right? This procurement legislation, it is still being blamed for all of the efficiencies when it comes to not having what is required in the organization. And to be quite honest with you, that is just an excuse because when we want to bring a contractor on the system today for tomorrow or an attorney on the system today for tomorrow, it happens. It happens overnight. So there is no reason why our workers can't get what they need to go out and perform their duties. So this struggle is also for the citizens of this country, right? I have seen comrades have been sending videos where they're out in the rain and they have cups and bags in the trucks catching water because of leaking roof. And none of the management don't know, but the management saying, well, procurement legislation, we have to wait. How long we waiting? While we waiting, our workers could easily say, well, we're sitting down in the yard until we get a good truck. But workers going out and work to the best that they could. Apart from that, the settlement of our negotiations, at this point in time, our medical plan is in jeopardy. And the way that that can be fixed is by settling our outstanding negotiations so that the plan can be salvaged from the position that it is in at this point in time. You cannot have, now, there was a health fair recently in Tianteka, and one of the things that was found, particularly among the field staff, one of the reports that was given, and it was a concerning report, is that the stress levels are very high, particularly among the field workers, and there's a reason for that. Men have to be working, and people think TNTech workers love overtime. They don't love overtime. It's because they have no other choice. If they don't work the overtime because of the shortage of manpower, then lights going to stay off for very extended periods of time, right? And when you have comrades who have to keep working, and here you are, they can't see about themselves in the manner in which they're supposed to get the rest that they require, then of course you find high stress levels, pressure reading through the roof, and all these kind of things. And to add insult to insult, our medical plan has to be fixed. I don't know the powers that be is aware of what is taking place in TNTech relative to our medical plan, But you cannot have a workforce that is unhealthy and required to work and can't even access the medical plan that they are contributing to in the manner in which is supposed to access it, right? Outside of that, if our negotiations is settled, it will treat with all of these things that we are talking about: medical plan, adequate vehicles, tools and equipment, manpower, because all of this is covered by the collective agreement, which is what we sit and we discuss when we meet for negotiations. So it's not only about money, it's about fixing other things so that we can ensure Trinidad and Tobago is happy.
Okay, so before you leave, let me tell Kyle he can log on.
Yes,
He's here, so I'm right.
I'm saying
Just before you leave, I just want to clarify. So there is a medical plan that employees contribute to, but they cannot access the benefits of the medical plan because it's lapsed or something. Give me a little bit more detail on that.
Marsha, well, remember I said we're on 2014 salaries, and when you look at doctor visits and all these tests that you have to do from 2014 to now, 10 years after, the costs would have gone up significantly. And based on the arrangement where the medical plan is funded, you find that not sufficient money is going into the plan, so that when workers go to the doctor and they make their claims, there is not sufficient money to be able to pay out claims in the manner in which it's supposed to be paid out. So workers are not being reimbursed in the manner in which they're supposed to be reimbursed. And again, it's the powers that be within the organization that are not doing what they're supposed to do, because there is a committee that would have sat and we would have discussed ways and means by which we can address this situation, right, while there is a pending settlement of negotiation. And to date, months after the fact, the management just has not given a response, and workers are still suffering. If we
Risa?
fix our, yes.
I thought you were ended there.
Yes, Marsha, that's fine. That's fine.
I come and see me on Saturday. I can't see your face or send me a picture.
I'll do that.
By God's grace, I'll be there on Saturday to join with you guys. This well, that senior council bit definitely threw me. That one, I tell you, this PNM government is a lawyer gate.
People
Somebody
need to pay
benefiting from legal
attention.
with this
Yeah,
PNM government. Kyle boy, you sign up with the wrong party, boy. This
that's
PNM government, it is the party to be a lawyer for this rounds. Risa, thank you very much. As I said, hopefully I'll get to meet you in person on Saturday. Be safe on the roads, and we'll chat on Saturday, God's willing.
it was a pleasure being here. And my last appeal to Trinidad and Tobago is to come out on Saturday, 9 a.m. outside of the Whitehall. Be a part of this movement that will be responsible for changing where we are at this point in time. We're in a crisis. We can't come out, but it requires numbers. So we are
Yeah.
looking forward to seeing Trinidad and Tobago out there.
We're also driving with our lights on Saturday. So
Great.
I mean, we
The
want
traffic.
everyone, we want thousands and thousands of people out in front of Whitehall on Saturday. But if for whatever reason you cannot come because you are working and whatnot, drive with your lights on Saturday. So that
Yes.
is a second sign to the government that we've had enough. If
Yes.
anything else comes out, keep sharing, because this is a time to show the government that we can unite. The powers that be think that we divide on everything. This is an issue where we can unite. We are uniting, and there, as Risa have said, there enough is enoughs. This is the final enough is enough. We're going to
Yes.
come
Agree.
out in our thousands and thousands and thousands on Saturday, and every single citizen take a drive, even if you're home. Take a drive with your light on Saturday. Thank you
Yes.
very much, Risa.
It was a pleasure. Take care. Bye.
Okay. Hi, Kyle, my resident attorney that isn't paid. I don't know if you heard.
Hi.
I don't know if you were listening, but do you
Hi.
know that TNTech has a full legal department? And for very simple matters, which their legal departments are competent, sometimes senior counsels show up
No
and are
comment.
paid. Very simple matters.
I don't know what may be simple to one person may actually be very complex. I don't know the matter. I mean, certainly what happens in those cases is that the court makes an assessment when it comes to costs. So if you win your matter and you claim costs and you're successful, the court will then make an assessment as to whether or not the matter was complex or
Do you think this is
justifies.
something that the opposition can follow up on? I mean, I don't know. Just you're a lawyer,
Well,
because
the
the trade
opposition
union is
has
saying that this is one area where the company is spending
a thing, bleeding money.
unnecessary money. She did call Keith Scotland's name, so I mean, maybe we could have him explain why. Because she said, but you see, she said you are seeing, and the workers look at it. The workers say, but we have a full legal department. Why aren't you using it? And I mean, I was assume that they would know what simple matters are. Maybe when she said it, I should have asked you while she was there, so she could have actually given you some of the case information. You know,
Yeah, I hear that, and it may be a perception, but you know, going to court is a specific skill. You may be an
but then
internal
why have? But then
legal
why pay the
officer.
legal team? Maybe just don't have the legal team permanent and
Well, you may no, but you may need a legal unit to advise on contracts, to do different internal, what you call non-contentious work, bonds, that kind of. But when you have to advocate, let's say at the highest levels, perhaps the Court of Appeal, and the opposite side is bringing experienced counsel, you may have to also get that. I mean, I don't know the
we
matter
don't
as I
know. We
said,
don't
but
know. Yeah.
but yeah, we don't know. But I mean, I
So it
wouldn't
would
want
have
to
been
say.
good for me to have brought this up with her here, with you there, so that you could then, so y'all could, because I knew you were going to say something that I would not have thought of because I'm not a lawyer, and
No, no, it happens. I mean, I have gone into matters where I've represented companies, and you have very experienced internal legal officers. But because I'm a litigator and my job is to go in court and cross-examine witnesses, I will have an evidential view. So I would start looking at the evidence that is required to prove your case. And that's a specific skill as opposed to someone simply advising on the contracts and the law, etc. Lawyers are trained to do both, but obviously people have their specialties. So you
yeah.
wouldn't want to discount if a matter. Now, don't get me wrong. I am very sure that there is abuse in different areas, different
Well,
state
senior
companies where
counsel for a simple matter.
I would not be surprised if in some companies or some state entities, senior attorneys are retained when it's not necessary. My approach is always to try and settle a matter before we get into litigation and the client tries to expend a lot of money. But when we go to trial, well, that's why I put on my battle armor and fees may elevate and that kind, because then I subsume myself in the case. I don't sleep. I eat, breathe, and live your case, and I expect to be compensated fairly. And when I go to court, you could bet your bottom dollar that I know down to where the staples are in every single piece of paper that's before me, right? So, and that's the level of preparation that you have to have, and you have to be compensated for that, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Hold on. Where's my Kyle?
Where is
Okay,
my
so,
Kyle? I'm right here.
well, no, my Kyle notes. My
Notes.
Kyle
Okay.
notes.
Questions you
Because,
have for me? Let's go.
yes. Where's my Kyle notes?
Mhm.
All right. Okay, so where do we start, Kyle? I have. Are you going to be there on Saturday?
I intended to just I want to and I intended to. I just received a call from a client. What time is it? The protest?
9
What?
a.m.
Yeah, I do have to see a client in on Saturday morning. It's a matter that just popped up. It's a little bit urgent, so I told him come. So once that's finished, I think I'll try to come down.
All right. Make sure and drive with
Yeah,
your lights on.
sure.
All right. I got that from Dinesha, so I'll let him
Um,
tell you.
sure, sure.
You
I'll give
listen
him a
to him.
call. I'll give him a call and ask him. Yes.
Yes. So, because he sent it to me, so he wanted to be here, but he was stuck in some abnormal traffic because in Trinidad, any little thing happens and you get stuck in traffic.
I wonder if
Um,
his lights are on.
well, it's on Saturday, guys. So
Okay,
he
okay.
said, make sure and tell everybody, drive with your lights on Saturday. Make sure and tell everybody, come down to Whitehall on Saturday. Drill it, drill it, drill it, drill it, drill it. So I said, okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay, I will.
Yeah.
And then I called Gary to
Mhm.
confirm that it is not illegal for you to drive with your lights on.
Mhm.
He said the TTPS gets it a bit off sometimes, but it is not illegal. So feel free, drive with your lights on Saturday.
I I mean I don't think it is. I mean I could check the
But
what we
no,
call
but
the
because I think the
MVRT.
reason I asked, because I knew there was some, we always get something, like persons were asking me, Marsha, is it legal? Are we going to be arrested on Saturday?
There
So,
is
well,
a
first of all, you
law
could be, yeah. I
there is
said,
a
first of
law
all, you
that
could be
says
arrested for all kind of thing in Trinidad, whether it's legal or
yeah,
not,
I know.
Right
I mean,
stuff.
it's in deep regulations in the MVRTA, the Motor Vehicle Road Traffic Act. I know that there is a law that says at a certain time your lights have to be on.
Have to be
Um,
on, yes.
right. So I
So
know that, but
that's what
I could
Gary
give
was
it a check.
explaining.
I'll give it a check tomorrow just to be safe.
Yeah. So that's what Gary was
MVRTA
explaining,
is
that
a
the wording of the law could make you
yeah.
feel that if
You could
it's not, if
only
it's
yeah
yes, yes,
yeah
yes. So he was saying the
uh,
wording of the law could be interpreted to
wrongly.
make you think that, yeah, that if it's on before the regulated time, it's illegal, but it's
Doesn't
not.
make
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, obviously the intention would have been
Look
with the
who's
lights
joined
on.
us. Look who joined us.
Oh, we have senior attorney here. So what am I,
I
Marsha?
just
Marsha,
called
did
your
you double
name.
book? Marsha, do you know you should not double book attorneys?
I did not really double book. He was supposed to be
Marsha,
here.
Marsha,
I
sorry. Before let me say good afternoon to you, to Mr. Taklal Singh, to all the listeners, viewers. Is it that I heard Kyle correct that there's already a senior attorney on your program? So what am
No,
I?
no, I said we are
No, we
joined.
now have a
We are
senior
joined,
attorney. Yes,
and
we
it's
now
so
have. We now have.
coincidental.
Yeah.
And it's
Yes.
so
So
coincidental. One of the matters Marsha wanted to speak about was the senior counsel judgment. So
yes.
I think that
So
Dinesh is
I
perhaps the
don't know if your
best person.
air. I don't know if your air was ringing, but we were just talking about you. We
Yes.
were
Oh,
literally just talking about you. So I was saying that, Dinesh, because I was giving him an eye because he went and take some appointment Saturday morning, so he might be late for the protest. So I was
Dinesh
giving him
knows
an
the
eye,
matter
and
that
I was
I'm
saying I'm
engrossed
going to
in, so he
tell
will forgive me.
Dinesh. I told him I'm going to tell Dinesh to call you, because if Dinesh tell you to do it, I know you're gonna do it. And
Well, that is ordinarily true, but as Dinesh would say, if a gentleman by the name of Mr. Ramesh Lawrence Maharaj calls me and asks me to do something on Saturday morning, then all bets are off. I have to go and do
understood,
that.
understood.
yeah. Yes,
But I
Mash.
told him,
That's a standing order.
regardless. Yeah, so I told him to drive with his light on Saturday at least.
Yes, yes,
So
for sure.
Okay.
So
yes.
you want to
But
proceed with Dinesh, and I will join you back at 5:30, 5:40.
Well,
um,
that's up
no,
to
no, but
you.
I'm hoping if Kyle has the time, he could hold on. I just want to give a few um, thoughts,
Sure.
probably if I express it about the match, and look, Kyle.
You go ahead now, Dinesh, and I will just be here. I will join on when you're ready.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's fully capable of handling any aspects of law and things like that. Probably better than me, Marsha. So you're in capable hands. Um,
Right.
but
He's my resident free lawyer.
oh yeah, and mine as well. So, I'm happy that Kyle is on and stuff because whether it is a form of gathering, demonstration, whatever we want to call what we are about to embark upon on Saturday morning, you always need to have persons who are prepared to back you legally. I mean, the late Sat Maharaj used to call me the legal bodyguard for himself and the Mahasabha. But I have legal bodyguards myself in the form of Kyle Taklal Singh. And why I say that is because, like himself, Stefan Ramkisoon, there are quite a few others, but I mean, Kyle is on. I want to make it abundantly clear with, lawyers like them, you really they go out of their way to ensure that justice is served and that your rights are protected. They don't say, give you the advice and then they fall short with the representation. Kyle and I remember a couple years ago, this is just straying off topic, but to tell the viewers and listeners that should anything happen, I know we will have lawyers who will be prepared to come on board. A couple years ago, maybe more than 2 or 3 years ago, when Gat was actually detained at the police station. I can't recall exactly what it was for, but Kyle picked me up at home at about 9:30 in the night because we realized, listen, this thing looking serious. And they, sometimes the police officers have their own methods. Let me leave it at that, where the intention is that they may not necessarily charge you, but you might end up spending the weekend in the police station and in one of the holding cells. And so we went down there, and between Kyle and myself, we posted bail for Gat, and we got him out. I think he eventually got out about 2 a.m. in the morning, and then we left. So we know what happens with these things, but I'm hoping that the police service and the relevant authorities understand the critical nature of the issues that are facing the nation right now. And I think if they understand it, they will know that there must be some room, some leverage. It's not unlawful leverage now. We are talking about just some leverage, some latitude to allow the citizenry to exhale. And that is what this is. This is, I'm not speaking here now as a member of parliament. I am also a citizen who is outraged by what is going on. I'm frustrated, Marsha. I'm deeply concerned over what, I would say is a glaring injustice. We, meaning yourself, myself, Kyle Taklal Singh, and many others, we as a nation, as citizens, we now face these glaring injustices. And I know the straw, if you want to call it, the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back is the recent Salary Reviews Commission report that it has exposed yet again as the staggering indifference of this government to the daily struggles of the people. Marsha, I am fully aware of the work that you do on this program, on your social media pages, your Facebook page and otherwise. I see the work that you do, and it is always about highlighting the struggles of the ordinary citizen. And so I commend you for that. And so I know you fully appreciate what I'm talking about, that when we are at a time when countless families are barely making ends meet, Marsha, when mothers and fathers are wondering how to feed their children, when small businesses are closing their doors, when crime, and this is the number one social ill right now, when crime grips our neighborhoods, when basic services in healthcare, in education, in infrastructure, they are crumbling. This government has chosen to put themselves first, and that is just simply unconscionable. And apart from using, that word, which is, normal language, I would say it is unconscionable, it is unfair. I want to go a little bit further to say in terms of democracy now, it is really a blatant abuse of power. It is a slap in the face to every hardworking citizen in this country, Marsha. So it is not just about increasing salaries. It is about priorities. It is about integrity. It is about trust that leaders are supposed to have and to exhibit, to epitomize in the people they serve. I want to ask people this simple question. Why is it me, Dinesh Rambly, getting on board? I stand to get from my meager calculations, because I wouldn't profess to know just the details of how the intricate the taxation will bite into an additional $3,000 or $4,000 to what is the present opposition MP salary. But whatever it is, in my estimation, it works up to about $3,000. It doesn't matter whether you take, you accept, you don't accept, or whatever. And I am prepared not to accept it. I've made that clear in the public domain. So let's leave that there for now. The point is, how dare Marsha, how dare this administration, in a time of indisputed economic hardship, in a time when so many people are struggling to survive, reward themselves with better perks, better pay, better privileges, while ordinary people are told to sacrifice and endure. We had an entire pandemic. Everything you heard was, we need to, yes, we heard the Prime Minister say we need to tighten our belt. We heard various ministers say time and again, ad nauseum, you need to, it's a whole of government approach. It is a whole of society approach. So when times were really bad in the pandemic, it was a whole of a government and whole of society approach. And now when it is, we are barely managing, barely struggling to get out of the grasps of the tentacles of the pandemic. We haven't fully gotten out of it. The viral part, yes. The medical side, yes. The health aspect, yes. But in terms of the social impact, we haven't gotten out of that yet. So how come it is no longer a whole of government and a whole of society approach, and that we must therefore bind together and treat with this together? Why is it that the lower level income earners are seeing hard times, but the upper level and particularly elected officials are quite prepared and quite happy to suddenly find it in themselves to use terminology like, well, if not now, when will we give ourselves a raise? That's besides the point. If not now, when will you give salary increases to the low income earners? So we cannot, and we will not accept this. We cannot, Marsha. Through you, I want to tell everybody who's tuned in, we cannot let this abuse of power go unanswered. The time has come for us. This is not a UNC issue. It's not a PNM issue. It is not any other political party issue. This is not limited to a JTAM issue or a trade union issue. This, I have said it in my press conference earlier this week, I see this as a bread and butter issue for each and every one of us. So the time has come for us as a people of Trinidad and Tobago to stand together and to say that cliched, phrase, enough is enough. But we have to not just say it, we have to do it. So I say this Saturday, Marsha, 9 a.m. I will try to be there as early as 8 a.m. because, just to be there, to be with everyone, meet and greet and to talk and let us have a conversation one-on-one. Nothing is wrong with that, about how people are experiencing some hard times and maybe how we can help each other, how we can exchange ideas. So I'll try to be there as early as 8:15 a.m. But certainly no later than 9 a.m. Let's have the gathering. I am calling on every patriot. Marsha, if you are a citizen who loves your country, sweet TNT, come and join in front of the Whitehall this Saturday, the 7th of December at 9 a.m. And let us send a loud, unified, and unmistakable message to this government that we will not tolerate this disrespect any longer. Let us, we the people, have the power to do this. Let us remind them that they serve at the will of the people, not the other way around. Let me be clear again, Marsha, this is not about politics. This is about fairness. It is about accountability. It is about the soul of our nation. When I got into public office, I know I told the people, I told constituents of Chaguanas West that I am here to make a contribution. I'm here to offer myself. I didn't know, and I still do not understand in public life, even at different junctures, and particularly now, that I was ever signing up for some kind of lucrative employment. I saw that when I offered myself, this was public service. So I say that, you can't seek lucrative employment if you are claiming to give yourself in and offering yourself in the service, a chief servant, so to speak, of the people of this country. So it comes down to principles of how we have traditionally governed ourselves. This is about the soul of our nation. And when our government turns a blind eye to the suffering of the people, I have a problem with that, because they are choosing to self-enrich themselves over service to the people. So it is up to us now, to the people, all of us, you included, Marsha, to hold them accountable. But before I end, I'm going on a little bit, and you haven't interrupted me, and I'm glad for that. But before I give way again, so that we continue the discussion, I want to say it doesn't end there. You see, on Saturday, Marsha, we have a situation where we just had a post-cab press conference this afternoon. And I want to say that, to me, I didn't see it, but I listened to it on the radio. And I think that the government, the officials, ministers of government, and it is being really led and championed, so to speak, by the Prime Minister. They are treating this people, right? The government is treating the people with scant courtesy. So it is not just, we go there on Saturday and we end there. I am also saying that, there may be a reason, and I'm saying that there should not be, right? Because this is a sufficiently important issue. It is a non-partisan issue. People come out, and if it is for some reason, it could be a medical reason, it could be some other reason you are unable to. I am also calling on every person who drives, and those who do not drive, but you are a passenger in whether your parents' vehicle or whether in a friend's vehicle, whether in a colleague vehicle, whether you're in public transportation, you just gently tell the driver, listen, could you please put on your headlights? Because that is what we also want to do on Saturday. So throughout the country, throughout the 7th of December, Let everybody drive with their lights on. Every citizen who values justice, turn your headlights on as a symbol of your disgust from early morning until nightfall. And well, of course, if you're driving at night, I don't need to tell you what to do. Let your headlights, let these lights be a beacon of resistance. We are in very dark times in Trinidad and Tobago, Marsha, and I've said it already, that we need the light to be shown so that we could see our way again. So let it be a symbol of our collective outrage and our demand for change. It's not just saying, sending the signal. The signal is also clear that we are demanding change. We want to see accountability, transparency, and fairness in how you treat with the people of the nation. So I say, I know, I don't know if you I know it was meant to be part of the discussion. I don't know if you got into it yet in terms of the legality and stuff, but I want to say, regardless of what view you hold on the issue of the legality of putting on lights during the day, I am saying it is being done, and the intention is that it will shine a light on the darkness of this government's greed. It will serve as a reminder that no matter how much they try to ignore us, the people, we see them, we see their abuses, and we will not let them get away with it. So the fight is about all of us, our children, our future, our beloved Trinidad and Tobago. We love to say sweet TNT, but it's not sweet TNT anymore. If we stay silent now, if we allow this government to think that they can act without consequence, then we have failed not only ourselves, but the generations to come, Marsha. And I know you are a family lady as well. You're a family-oriented individual. You're a mom. I want to urge you. I want to urge all parents. I want to urge everyone, even if you're not a parent, come out on Saturday. Bring your family. Bring your neighbors. Bring your friends. Let your voices echo across the streets of Port of Spain. Drive with your headlights on and let your light shine against this injustice. You see, Marsha, together, I can't say this enough, together as a people, we just have to bind. Together, we are stronger. Together, we will show this government that the people of Trinidad and Tobago will not and is not any longer to sit idly by while the government abuse their power. This is our moment now, and this is our stand. Let us rise together and make history. And that is what Saturday is about at Whitehall. Let us fight injustice for fairness. Let us fight for fairness. Let us fight for our country. So I want to thank you for the little time that you have given me. I'm, of course, available to take this conversation any further. But I know the arguments are all out there, Marsha. I know people have really stripped apart that SRC and made it very clear as to what it is. It is not worth the paper it is written on. It is a document which perpetrates an injustice. So I want to thank you for this time. I want to tell Trinidad and Tobago, regardless of what happens today, now, tonight, tomorrow, the preparations leading up to Saturday and Saturday, of course, I will always pray that God bless Trinidad and Tobago. But we, the people, have our part to play, Marsha. We need to get down to business. Enough is enough. Let's come out. Let's get together. Let's do this. I am not, notice, Marsha, I have not said, nor do I intend to tell people how they should vote in any general election, whether it is held January, February, anytime next year. I have not said whether you should support a particular political party. That is not what this is about. This is a people's issue, bread and butter issue. And I'm saying that we must take the fight to the government on issues. And this is one of those that we need to take the fight to the government. You have enough time to make up your mind on your own to determine who you want to vote for when an elections come around, depending on how many, if it's only two, if it is accommodations or whatever it may be. You have enough time to do that. That's not what Saturday is about. Saturday is about telling the government that you are really abusing your power. And it is unconscionable that you can think that you're going to give yourself salary increases from the Prime Minister, going to be one of the highest paid. I think as it stands now, if I'm not mistaken, I think he's already the 5th highest paid office holder in the Caribbean, as it stands now. And if it is you go and you take this pay raise, well, you can see him going up. But again, that is not what public service is about. And I really want to say that for Prime Minister Rowley, for somebody who have served in public office for that length of time, to come at a time when the country needs leadership its most. The country needs to see you lead by example. This is the time when you have the biggest gap between the lower income. There's no middle income anymore. It's either you have and that you can make it, or you are low down. And if you are low down, you are struggling to make ends meet. You are struggling. You may consider yourself to be marginally above the poverty line, but you are still in a situation where you are barely managing to make ends meet, because you have to balance what you're prioritizing in terms of your bills for your kids, this extracurricular activities for your kids, schooling for yourself, to put in gas in your vehicle, public transportation, whatever it is. You are there, you are struggling. And I'm saying that you can't say that you have served in public office for probably the longest term in all the parliamentarians in Trinidad and Tobago, but at a time when it is needed most, that you lead by example and you show that you are prepared to tell the people that, no, I want to see things built from the base go up. And when we are satisfied that there is no longer long lines in the hospitals to get medical treatment, and if it is there are no long lines, but you get in and you are awarded that there's actually a bed that you can actually be lie upon and therefore be looked after, that we don't have those issues anymore, shortages in those simple things, amenities. People are getting water throughout the country. If it is that people are able to somehow afford basic things when they go to the grocery, that they don't have to feel, you as a parent, you don't have to feel shame when you go to the grocery and in front of your own child, that they point to something, nothing luxurious, just something that may be savory, and they want to pick that up and they want to have that and to partake of it. But as a parent, you can't afford it, because you don't know when you reach that grocery counter, when you reach the cashier, when these things are added up together, whether you're going to have enough cash to cover it. So you have to tell that child and disappoint that child. And most times I see parents having to do it, Marsha. I see it, and they feel ashamed in front of their own children that they're not able to do things for their kids. And I really feel this is something that it hurts me. I can only imagine parents who go through that, what happens. And we are in the Christmas season, and I don't see it being as festive as it should be. So I really want to say that Dr. Rowley is he's doing an injustice to himself, and worse than that, he's bringing upon this nation a very tragic injustice, and we need to stand up against it.
There was no need to interrupt. I felt your passion. There were several times I felt goosebumps, because at the end of the day, enough is enough. We had a representative from Tiantec. She is a member of the OWTU, second vice president of the OWTU, and she said, this is we've had enough. Enough is enoughs. This is it. This is the last straw, as you said. Just to clarify, I did reach out to the former Commissioner of Police, Captain Gary Griffith. He did confirm that it is not illegal. He said the way that the law is worded can make some of the police officers feel as though you can't drive with it on during the day. But he did give assurances that it is not illegal. So citizens can feel doubly safe to drive with their lights on Saturday.
Yeah.
Just for those who are now joining, you shouldn't now be joining, but let me just say again that there will be lawyers there. So MP Rambley gave his assurance that there are lawyers, there are people, there are good. Not every lawyer just want to eat a food. There are lawyers who will be there who are prepared to stand with us, and well, what we were saying earlier, MP, I don't think Kyle and I got into it, but I was speaking, with Risa from Tiantec, and we were reminding persons that a lot of the freedoms that we enjoy today, and we locally and internationally, we made a joke, but it's not a joke, about slavery. And if you were in that time, would we still be in shackles because you weren't prepared to do what it took? And so our forefathers would have fought for a lot of freedoms that we enjoy today. And we owe it to the next generation. We owe it to our grandchildren and their children to pick up the baton and to carry it forward. I know it's not something easy to say, but people died. People faced jail time, and we cannot take lightly our responsibility to the next generation. We cannot take it lightly. We cannot take our freedoms lightly. Somebody fought for it. Somebody lost their life for it. And are we going to say thanks, but that is them, that is not me? And then what? You're going to die and, you know, to heck with your children and their children and the next generation. It don't matter if they don't have the same freedoms you have. You know, there's a saying that if we don't stand today, our children won't be able, our children will kneel tomorrow, you know. um
Yeah.
and I think that is what I would really want persons to understand, because I think in my first post when I had interviewed, so it was last week, because last week while we were speaking about the port issue, we'd found out that the prime minister had had accepted, because of course we have we have the show on a Thursday. So unless you've listened to it, you may not, know, and persons are preparing to come on the interview and stuff. So we had the port where we had Michael Anisat with us last week. And so he heard about it while we were on the show. And so it was being planned, sort of like the show is happening and the outrage is happening, that what, the prime minister is accepting this, what's our step, and it's just outrageous. It's just outrageous. And we really we have to understand the fight. We have to understand that this is bigger than you and I. And as you said, we have to find a reason to unite. I don't want to say the politicians, because I know we're all technically politicians here. And they do their best to divide us, because that helps with the agenda. But there are sufficient reasons to unite. And as I said, I mean, if you could really understand that this is a fight for the future, it's not a fight for ourselves, it's a fight for the quality of life that our children will have. And I mean, and I'm someone of faith, just like you. So in the end, God is sovereign. God is sovereign. His will happen. But there is a responsibility that we have. God always works through human beings. So there is a responsibility, a real tangible responsibility that we have. While we pray, we must act, we must work, we must make an active human stand. So I definitely want to join with you, join my voice. God willing, I will be there on Saturday as well.
Yes. And
But
Marsha,
I
if we
wanted to just clarify so that persons know. But as I said, even will they try to intimidate us? Of course they will. If hundreds of thousands of people come out, of course they will. We've had the water riots, we've seen what those things look like. But that cannot deter us, because as I said, somebody did it for us, and we
yes.
must be prepared to do it for somebody else. We must be prepared to pass on that fight to our children.
And I agree with you, Mash, and I am really happy that how you have put it forward, because it is really us fighting to secure a platform for the next generation to build upon. So just what we inherited, we owe a duty to our ancestors to make good or make better on what they left for us. And we owe the next generation that duty as well, to leave that in place intact for them, preserve something for them. But the way Trinidad and Tobago is governing itself right now, and the road which we are traversing right now, the trajectory does not spell a good one, and therefore we need to take a stance. And as I certainly, as I want to conclude, Marsha, um, you said, politicians have a way, and I agree with this fully. Politicians have a way that they, when it is convenient, they polarize people, because it suits the particular, it's a means to an end at that point in time, and it suits that purpose. But one would ask, well, how come? Now, I remember in February, March, I think it may have been March, when the 117th report was laid. I I mean, it doesn't matter whether I was first or not. The point I want to make, I was immediately off the blocks on the track and field. And I basically said, no, I didn't wait to consult anybody. I immediately said, no, this is unconscionable. And at that time, it was clear the methodology was just lacking. There was absolutely none. The government didn't move ahead with it, and they sent it back to the SRC to justify and to explain how they came up with it. But it was as though it was a fait accompli, as we say. It was really just something in train, and we the destiny, the end result was already determined. And therefore, what happened? You saw that it took many months, and they have just been SRC. That is, they just plugged some gaps, they plugged some loopholes here, tied up some loose ends, and basically what they recommended was exactly what they had before. They're seeking to enforce now, and have recommended, sorry, and the government is seeking to enforce. I don't agree with it, and that is why immediately when it was announced by Prime Minister Rowley, I think it was last Friday, I immediately said that we cannot allow this to remain unchallenged, and they cannot escape with it. And I was happily surprised that I said now is the time to protest, and
And then, yeah.
yeah, I saw online news first, and thereafter the print news Saturday morning. OWTU has this planned. JTAM has something planned for the 7th of December, and I was like, okay, great, this is good. And then people want to say, well, it's convenient, rambly, all of a sudden it's with the trade union. That's not so. I have practiced labor law as a lawyer, so I know the value of a trade union. And I want to tell everybody out there, you know the value of a trade union when you see you are on the side of some kind of victimization, some kind of oppression, some breach of your term of employment, right? Your wages and your conditions of employment are being trampled upon. You know the value of your shop steward or your union rep or your labor rep when you see that happens, and you need to go to them. And so you know that. And as a lawyer, I know that as people seek recourse, I have also represented trade unions as well, who take up fights on behalf of their membership. As a judge, Marsha, when I was in industrial court, I'm able to say no, there's no conflict. I've been out of the court for almost a decade. And so I can tell you that I'm not saying anything here which will conflict in any matter. What I want to say is that the general proposition is that I could tell you that the unions is probably the largest stakeholder in ensuring that you get industrial relations practices right, and that you get social justice in the wider community, and that is the role they play. So it's not convenient to say, well, okay, let us get on board with the unions. And traditionally, when politicians are in power, they have they are on the other side, or the antagonistic side against the trade unions. That is the collective bargaining framework which we continue to operate in, and that is inevitable. But that is not in any way to take away from the role that the union plays. And I was making this point on another program, and where I said that you have a situation where right now a lot of the working class persons, they are looking at two collective agreement periods. So two bargaining periods where they should have gotten salary increases that have gone by. They're looking at it in the rearview mirror. It has gone already, and they're seeking to get retroactive payments, and that is untenable. And you can't you have to sort that out before you can even negotiate the present period you are in. And therefore, what happens in situations like that is that a trade union will find itself saying, hey, I can't even get into the nitty-gritty of what I deem to be the human rights issues that I want to protect on behalf of my membership. And the way that is traditional for not only in Trinidad and Tobago, but all over the world, is that they almost ultimately would ask for a higher percentage. You're not going to start at 1%. You're going to have to start at the higher end, because you want to make sure you cover everything for your workers, that if you even fall short, that they have something that is tangible, that compensates them for the work that they have done for their employer, whosoever that employer may be, private sector, public sector, whatever. So it's not a nice thing to just cast aside the fact that trade unions could be difficult at times. They have their job to do, they have their role to play. And I am saying at this point in time, in this country, we, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, it doesn't matter if it is trade union, it doesn't matter if it is anybody, if you belong to a political party or not. I think it is a matter of just everybody coming together, because it is an issue that transcends all partisan interests. Just to simply say you are governing in the wrong direction. You can't increase salaries for upper echelons to the tune of people getting back pay to the tune of millions or $1 million, and you have lower income people can't afford a loaf of bread sometimes on a Friday evening at the end of the week to take home to feed their families. Something has to be terribly wrong with that. And I think I heard you made the point as well, Marsha, that if you widen that gap, there's no longer middle income bracket. If you widen the gap between those who are at the upper echelons and those who are the lower end, it's really going to lead to some social injustices materializing. And we wouldn't want that for a small country like Trinidad and Tobago. God forbid anything should happen which even remotely resembles what we experienced in 1990. We could cure this and we could be one happy family, sweet TNT again. So, Marsha, I want to thank you very much. And of course, my colleague who graciously allowed me to go ahead because I have other
He gave
commitments
way.
now.
He gave way.
Yeah, so
He gave way.
Kyle, I want
Age before beauty, as I say.
age before beauty. All right, Kyle, I'll let you get away with that one today. No problem. But thank you so very much for this opportunity. And I want to thank people who have shown an interest so far. Let's meet on Saturday morning and let's do our part.
Yes, agreed. Thank you very much, MP.
Thank you, Marsha.
So, Kyle, you don't have so long again to talk. So now I will have to go through
In
my
court, we would
list.
say, in court, all I would need to say after Dinesh speaks is, I too agree, and just, and that's it, I can sit down.
So, so I don't know how you lawyers operate. Okay, well, Dinesh is gone, right? So it's all you now. We were going to talk about alliances, political alliances. We were going to talk about the Silk judgment. We were going to talk about UNC screening. So many things, but I have
Let's
20
take them
minutes.
one by one. Let's go.
All
If
right,
that's what
20
we want to
minutes.
talk
Silk
about.
judgment. Talk.
Let's go.
Israel can give the Oh, you want to give the context? You just talk. Give the
Um,
context.
Self-judgment, it's published. Everyone could look at it. I don't need to get into the nuances of the law. I think everybody in the country understands that we have a real problem in the way that we award silk in this country. Silk meaning the title of senior counsel, which is the highest lawyer in the legal profession, meaning senior, it's an accolade for lawyers. You're allowed to charge more fees, you're allowed certain privileges, etc. And it's the height of the profession of law. Really, in line with every other reasonable profession, we ought to be awarding these titles to persons who deserve it. It should be on merit. As the system currently exists, while I am sure there are some persons who are senior counsel, I could verify there are some persons who are senior counsel that have earned it on merit. There are also some who have gotten it because of political patronage. I mean, we can't get around that. It is a highly politically influenced process at this point. And I don't want to call specific names of persons who got silk, but it's obvious when one considers the fact that there are notable persons who have not gotten the senior counsel rank on this occasion who clearly deserve it. If those names I have no problem in saying. I mean, someone like Mr. Prakash Ramada, we saw his skill in the commission of inquiry that recently finished. He is a brilliant advocate. He should have been awarded silk in my view. Another one is a gentleman by the name of Jagdev Singh, endless court of appeal judgments in his name, developed the criminal law. He is someone who should have been given silk. Kelvin Ramki Soon is another one. Mr. Stephen Singh, and these are just some names I could call off the top of my head, who clearly, in my respectful view, ought to have been seriously considered. And then when you compare them with some of the names who have got it, I'm sorry, it's my opinion that there is clearly something wrong. So the system was challenged. It was thought that the rank of senior counsel ought to be independent. It was thought that the rank of senior counsel ought to be a sole discretion of the president and that there ought to be wider consultations. Unfortunately, the court could not agree because of the way the law is worded. So we're stuck with the system as is, meaning that the system is not necessarily unconstitutional, but because it's unconstitutional, it does not mean that it is correct. And therefore, it is my view that the Attorney General needs to set a new standard. I apologize. It needs to set a new standard for the selection of senior counsel in this country, which is based on merit, wide consultation, and performance at the highest courts, along with the other things such as ethics, leaders of the bar, etc., etc. So a new system is needed to put it short.
Oh, you said that the judgment, because I know you're saying that the judgment there for everybody to read, but we're not going to read it. But you said that the
Sure.
judgment was interesting when we spoke.
Yes.
Why?
Well, because it was predicated on an interesting argument, which said that it's something that I believe that the legal profession ought to be insulated from political interference, meaning there's something called independence of the bar. I believe as a lawyer, I am independent. Marsha, if you retain me today to do something and I'm your client, I will fight for you fearlessly. Now, even though I'm United National Congress, if I was no longer steeped in politics, and let's say Dr. Rowley came to me and he said, Kyle, I needed a lawyer and I needed to be retained. Because he's my client, I have to fight for him fearlessly. I mean, I just use that example to show the extremes,
Sure, yeah,
obviously. I could see waves of people saying, oh, you're going to, that's not the position. I'm simply using that as an
yeah.
analogy, meaning that as a lawyer, you have a professional independent obligation to discharge. And therefore, in doing so, yes, there is a facet of independence that you have to preserve. But at the same time, I'm not quite sure that you could say that lawyers are independent when they are actually fighting for their client and they have to adopt certain positions, even though they may not necessarily believe in the position in law, they still have to adopt it. And of course, you have a higher duty to the court to assist the court. But I mean, a classic example was when Mr. Maraj became Attorney General. He always, as a lawyer, opposed the death penalty. But when he became Attorney General, he said very clearly, he said, well, look, this is the law as it stands, and I have to enforce the law as Attorney General, as the government's lawyer, and therefore he moved swiftly to ensure that the law as existed was enforced. And that's a perfect example of a lawyer being independent, but being bound by your instructions and serving the client. Yeah, so
Okay, so
I
is
thought
that
that
what?
was interesting.
So that's so the court basically said that this is the law, so I have
Yes,
to uphold it,
we have to uphold it. Yes.
although it should be
Although there
independent.
are, yes, although there are some constitutional or there are some ethical principles which underpin the legal profession and the importance of the legal profession in a society, because really this is the legal profession is in my view something that is important to a democracy, because when people need to vindicate their rights and fight oppression, the first person you have to go to is a lawyer to seek advice, and you need an independent bar that isn't afraid or beholden to the government. Anybody walks through my door and they say, look, they need assistance, and I can assist in relation to constitutional claims, public law claims, oppression, etc. I do it as a lawyer because it's my profession, but also I believe that as a lawyer, you have to have that independent strength to take on anybody on behalf of your client. Yeah.
So when you say you're calling on the attorney general now, is it that the law has to change?
The law has to change. We can no longer use the system of silk that has been in society for the past I think it was the 1960s or 70s. There was something called an order of council. It needs to be reformed. There needs to be a committee set up as far as you can get an independent committee in Trinidad and Tobago, but certainly something staffed by former judges, senior professionals in the senior lawyers in the profession, other lawyers in the profession, so civil society, the law association. Let us have a committee appointed and let them consider applications. Let them look at the work that certain lawyers have done and decide on objectively verifiable criteria whether or not the person deserves silk. Certainly, if someone has never appeared, let's say in the Court of Appeal in Trinidad and Tobago, not all lawyers have appeared in the Privy Council, but let's say someone has never appeared in the Court of Appeal of Trinidad and Tobago, or very rarely appears at the highest court to argue cases. You can't jettison someone who has appeared hundreds and hundreds of times in the Court of Appeal with success or have developed the law, and that person is not being considered for silk. Yet you have some persons who are just being given silk because, I don't know, they know the right people. Something has to change, and there has to be an objective standard in assessing silk, or alternatively, abolish it.
So you're
Abolish it.
calling for changes to the law.
Yes, the law has to be
All
changed
right.
in how we select silk.
Well, but that can only come with some change to the law.
Yes, you have to. There has to be a change. I mean, You could amend the Legal Profession Act and put in an amendment to say that the rank of senior counsel, as was formerly under the Order of Counsel in the 1960s, shall now be selected by a
Right.
committee appointed by so and so, and that's it. That's your simple amendment. Yeah.
Understood. Well, you know, I always say Kyle for Attorney General. Okay, right. 15 minutes. Let's go. That's one. So, general election 2025.
Right. Back on our topic.
Back on our topic. So, you use a term political forgiveness alliances. So those two terms. Um, talk. What did you
Well,
mean?
I mean, when we were chatting, I did say that as we go into 2025, there certainly has to be, in my respectful view, there has to be a coming together of, I think it's a little, I think it's a little, passe to talk about coalition of opposition forces. I think the way I look at the politics is the PNM is, a monster. It is very difficult to unseat. And after 10 years of their tentacles reaching into, all sorts of
Everywhere.
institutions, etc., they're going to be extremely difficult to unseat. In order to unseat them, the United National Congress, one, has to look at itself and do the things necessary to become more attractive to the population and to the independent, quote unquote, independent voters. And two, in my view, there has to be some unity. I mean, I have always said that, I am one who has leveled some criticisms of persons such as Gary Griffith because of certain decisions, etc. But at the end of the day, the NTA is a political party, and from what I can observe, it's gaining some traction. There's some good people on the NTA. There's this Dr. Saran. I look at him regularly. Bright guy, good ideas. So why aren't we inviting them for discussions to have talks and and let's come to some form of accommodation or unity. I mean, I don't know what happened that all of a sudden, because we were partners with the NTA not a year ago or just over a year ago. Um, it's so strange because when that was happening, I was sort of critical. My view was,
We can do it
y'all just
alone.
show up. Y'all need to, okay, we want to unite. But now, I mean, they I don't want to say something politically incorrect and say that they are forced to be reckoned with, but they're certainly picking up traction. And why not have a discussion at the table? We're all big, bright people, and let us come to a accommodation and negotiation to come with a united force to unseat the PNM. And and then when you're in government, everybody's happy because you are able to influence the policies to change the country and make positive changes, and we all benefit. All our families benefit from these changes. We fight crime, we fight poverty, we fight social ills, we improve our health sector.
I
Why
disagree
can't
with
we
you.
come together? I mean, it's
I disagree with
natural.
you.
Sorry.
I disagree with you.
So okay, well, all right. Well, my point is, it is natural. It is natural for um, it is natural for humans to have conflict. Let's take it. Let's start there. We even have fights with people we love sometimes, or people that we care about. What do? Do you just remain mad? Shouldn't somebody, if you really care about somebody or you care about something, reach out and try to make peace now and then? Of course, it's happened to me. I'm sure it's happened to you. I probably have to do that at some point in time in all stages of life. But the point is, we have a political ambition. We need to do things. That does not mean, let me say clear, and I suspect this is where you want to disagree. That does not mean you compromise on your political principles and beliefs. I agree with that. That does not mean, Marsha, let me say very clear, because like you, I had serious problems with certain decisions taken by the United National Congress, and that's why I stood in an internal election, because I believe that, and I continue to believe that there are improvements that have to be made. But politics is about compromise, but it doesn't mean that you compromise your principles. Let me put it like that.
Yeah,
And that's why
I
you have
agree. I agree
discussion.
that there is a space. I mean, to
Yes.
where we meet in the middle. But so
I,
maybe
I am abandoning the fight, Marsha. I am abandoning the
no,
fight. We
no,
still in the
no.
struggle.
That oh, I definitely disagree. So here's
Tell me.
well,
That's it. Let's discuss.
I I am still UNC and proud. But
I
I
am
do
as well.
not think, I honestly do not think that Kamla, I think the stage for any unity has gone. Not
Mm,
because I think if Kamla reach out and forgive and whatever, I think at this stage, just it's just me hearing. Maybe all my circle is just, and it's not, and I don't even think my circle is PNM. You know,
yeah.
it's the independence. The the independent minded critical thinker. I
Yes.
think that Kamala is such a spent force right now, unfortunately, this current version of the UNC, and not just, because it's their names around her, right? This current version of the UNC, what is the opposite of goodwill, Kyle? Whatever the opposite of goodwill is, they have.
Yeah.
And so anybody that touches, the Midas touch, they have the opposite of the Midas touch.
Yes. I
UNC will need massive restructuring very quickly if they are to do anything. I don't
and
think at this point in time they could bring Hope, Michaela, NT, all of them. I don't think the country trusts the present UNC. So it will feel as though, well, we've tried PP before, they will just implode, they will this, they will that, they will whatever, they'll be used. I think right now the present UNC's leadership is so tarnished that if you ask me, NT might have a better chance going it alone than to join with the UNC. That's my personal opinion. That's UNC will have their safe seats, whatever. But that's my personal opinion on that. So,
I mean,
so
as you were, as you were talking, it reminded me of in America, you have the federalist system where you have states that come together,
mhm.
and they never say that we have a perfect union. They say we strive for a more perfect union, right? Because I suppose no unity is perfect, no union is perfect, and I agree with you. There are serious concerns that persons like you, like me, and like many others have for the current configuration or the configuration of different parties, including the UNC. I agree with you. Um, to remove the PNM, it's going to be a difficult task. I am not
We know that
saying
it's near
I am not.
impossible at this stage,
It's near impossible, but I like a
but I
fight.
think it is possible.
I like a fight. When I went up for
I
internals, they
know you
told me I
like a
didn't like
fight,
most of
and you win
that.
them, but I
Yeah,
know you like a fight, and I know you win them, right?
yeah, yeah.
And history 2010 shows that we can. Our Walker, my husband has this new thing where he's coming and talking on YouTube and commenting on YouTube and distracting me. I see
Well, I
you.
mean that was expected, Marsha. It's osmosis. If you
It's
are, if
not
you are doing,
it's not actually expected, because if you know my husband, he refused. I would say, "Can you say something on Facebook?" And he refuses. He does not like anyone knowing his name or hearing him. But I'm seeing you, and I'm trying to not blush. And he says these things that makes me blush in the middle of an interview. Anyways, so
sounds like a husband. Sounds like a husband.
yeah. So where was I going? You see, now I'm confused. Okay, what
Unity,
was I
unity,
saying,
unity.
Kyle?
Let me see if I can say it in another way. I accept there are challenges in the UNC. I accept there are issues, but there are also a lot of positive
No, no,
things
no.
in the
Right. This is what I was going to tell you. In 2010, we had a massive change just a
Mhm.
few months before a general election, and I think that that's where we are. When Basio Pandey was removed, Kamala Prasad Bisesa, less than 5 months, we were in government. I cannot see the UNC doing anything unless there's massive change. But I do think that we still have time.
I
That's where
agree with you.
that's where
I,
I'm at.
I, I want to say that I sympathize with your view. I understand your view. We are in a scenario where there is unlikely to be another internal election in United National Congress. One has taken place. Um, I was a
Well, I'm going
candidate.
to live in hope until July because we have a leadership election
Fair,
that's due.
well, fair, but there would be good reason if that election were to be suspended because it is an election, yeah, and it has
We've
been
had
done before.
elections in an election year before.
So, yeah, it's fair enough, but I mean, it's a matter for the Congress. So a Congress would have to be called, and that could be decided by the membership of the party. But let's put legal niceties aside. Let's say an election is called in February or March, as you know, there are strong rumors February or March next year, right? Um,
Yet
what do you
UNC
do?
has not named. No, they've named. They've
Name them
named.
three. I
They've
think
named
three.
three. They've
Yeah,
named
Shogunas,
three.
East, Sawa, Barataria, and San Fernando West. I think they've named three.
Yes. San
I'm
Fernando
fair enough.
West.
I'm
And
fair
San
enough.
Fernando West, notice NTA has named San Fernando West as
Yes,
well.
Dr. Saran. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So that's
So,
and that's a
so
that's one of the things.
in a
Why are
marginal,
we? Yeah,
so
why are
in a
we? Why?
marginal, we are
Fair enough.
seeing, and NTA has also named Shogunas East. And Shogunas East, while it's held by UNC, I would consider it to be a marginal.
Yes,
It may be
I'm.
UNC swaying, it may be UNC leaning, but there's been a consistent decline in the gap, the margin that we've won by.
I think my view is Vandana Mohit is a strong Shogunas East candidate. I think in the last local, she actually, and I could only attribute it to her that there were two polling divisions that we recaptured under the local in the local government scenario. Doesn't necessarily mean that it transfers to general. I accept that. But she's a strong candidate. But I also have to give some respect to Mr. Richie Sukai. He's also a Shogunas boy, very well known business, well entrenched in Shogunas
And
East.
NTA has put out Norman Dindial, who
Who's
is
a
from
he's a
Shogunas.
major military
Yes,
man, I believe, yes.
yeah,
So
yeah.
very three good candidates in
So
Shogunas
from
East.
and he's from Shogunas East. He's grown up there, son of the soil, that kind
Yeah,
of thing as well. So
yeah,
you now have a three horse race
and
in Shogunas
interestingly,
East
history taught us that when there was a strong third party, which was the COP
in
in
2007.
2007, the UNC lost Shogunas East and Point at Pay, I believe, because of the
Yes,
splitting of votes. Those were the two seats that they were
that's
strongly
why I put Shogunas East as a marginal.
sure. Fair enough.
In
That's
a
fair enough.
two-horse race, UNC will probably win, but
Yeah, I think
in a three-horse race,
it's difficult.
we don't have the
But,
margin to
but we're
allow.
saying three, but there's that also that wild card in terms of the Michaela Pandey.
We have Michaela, we
Yeah,
have
we
Philip
don't know what.
Alexander, whoever knows where he stands with things. But
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen where his one or two votes costed us in the local government elections.
He's another. I mean, he is another. And again, this is why I have no discrimination. He's another. He's another powerful party. Now, as a lawyer, when you enter into settlement or negotiation, you take your lawyer hat off for a bit. As a lawyer, I'm trained for conflict, and I want to engage in
But you like
conflict.
to settle, so you
But
clearly know how
and
to negotiate
and
and
you
settle.
but it's a whole different skill to treat with negotiations, and therefore if we are going to approach negotiations we need to bring everybody at the table and you need to have a discussion. Now that doesn't mean that you have to bend to unreasonable demands. It can't be that a party comes and say, well, we want 10 seats and you and take 9 seats, and no, obviously not. People
But
have
it's
to
not.
be
I don't even
realistic.
think it's a number issue.
Sure.
NTA is saying, if I'm reading it correctly, that they're not prepared to just take all the PNM seats and UNC take all their safe seats.
Fair
That
enough.
wouldn't be fair. It
Fair. I
wouldn't
mean,
be fair to send
that's a
Gary and Diego Martin
I
and
wouldn't say that's a I wouldn't say that's an unreasonable position, but we don't know the dynamics, right? As I would be put it like this, I would be satisfied if a discussion took place. I don't know if a discussion has taken place or if unreasonable demands have happened. I don't know if people are fronting to simply try to put pressure on other. There's a well-known phenomenon called blackmail politics. We all know. You come and you only harass marginal seats because you know that the UNC would have to bend, and maybe Ms. Prasad Bisasa is being strong and says, no, well, I have to put my foot down here. I'm going to go it alone. It might be that last minute there's a negotiation, but that is not
you know
to
what's
discount.
unfortunate though, Kyle? In my video I said 10 years, but it's more like 15 years. Just like you, I did not want a coalition up to last year. I thought that the UNC, and I continue to say the UNC should be the key word, able to stand alone by now. Just like PNM don't need to worry about what third parties doing. They don't need to worry about what third party come, what third party go. They can do it on their own. The UNC is around long enough. We have the talent. We have more than enough talent to have been able to go this thing alone, but we did not do the work. And unfortunately, we have to be honest with ourselves that we didn't do the work. We didn't do the right things. Whatever it is, whether we did the wrong, plenty work, but the wrong work, we didn't do the right things. And we are where we are now. And
Well, certainly, I fully agree that the UNC has the talent and strength. I mean, let's be honest here. Mr. Griffith came from the UNC,
he
so
did.
insofar as
He
he
did.
is now NTA, he was a part of the talent that made the UNC strong. He was one of the better national security ministers, and he was a commissioner of police, which
He was a
came from the
senator. He
UNC.
was a senator before. He was a
Correct. So
UNC senator
he is
before.
UN. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
want to insult him if he has his own party now, obviously, but he is UNC
But
talent. He was UNC talent that has now decided to go his own. So we should recognize that. And as I said, I have criticized him in the past because of some decisions he made by the commissioner of police. That doesn't mean I you throw the baby out with the bath water.
yeah.
People have to be mature. You may have differences, but being a professional and a professional politician means that you have to be able to give and take, and you have to be able to negotiate and come to positions that are going to benefit the electorate and the country. Because ultimately, there is no compromising on loving our country and wanting everybody to do better and thrive in our society. That's the baseline. No one negotiates from there. Nobody can come to my party and say, well, we want Trinidad to go down hell in a handbasket. Absolutely
Yeah.
not. But then we start to move. Well, are you a party that wants constitutional change? Are you a party that's happy with the first past the post system? Are you? And of course, these are things that we could suspend or look at or negotiate. And are you a party that's interested in that believes in liberal firearm licenses? Are you a party that believes in safe in restricted? Are you a party that believes ABC? And that's how you start to negotiate on positions, because ultimately people are in political parties because they want their worldview to be projected into governance. I mean, that's the way I see it, and I hope that discussions take place sooner rather than later. And I mean, ultimately, if there's no compromise, well, then we have a democratic system to sort it out.
Sad but true. It's a 601, Kyle. I
All
didn't have
right,
as long with you as I wanted.
that's okay. Are you going right up to Christmas?
I think so. I haven't gotten
Okay.
any mandate to tell me to stop.
Yes, yes. Well, things usually in my profession they seem like they ease up, and then last minute on Christmas Eve, I'm drafting or going to court. But hopefully, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen this year. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Kyle,
All
and
right.
hopefully we'll have you on before the end of the year.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you,
Bye,
thank you,
David.
Marsha, and
I
thank you
didn't
for
say
all
hi to
this.
you at all today.
That's okay. You were fantastic as always.
Bye.
Bye. That's it for today's edition of Hard Talk with Marsha Walker. Marsha will be back next Wednesday.